Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith back this time, not with a fight breakdown, although I do appreciate you guys appreciating the picks last time out. Anyway, one thing I noticed, and I said I was going to talk about it, and I am, with the victory of Magomed Ankalaev, the champion problem continues for the UFC, and they have, to me, a big one. Now, you can't always compare promotions based on their champions. It isn't necessarily the strength of the promotion is necessarily based on their champions. It's based on the depth of the divisions. But in this case, generally speaking, your pay-per-view sellers, the big interest-generating fights are champions. And right now, the UFC has a problem in that a lot of their star power has aged out in the last year, or they've taken losses, however you want to put it. And they have a real champions problem where they have a lot of champs who are very, very good, who are very, very solid, that fans don't have a ton of interest in. So I'm going to go over it from top to bottom today and discuss it. Please let me know what you think in the comments section. Of course, give a subscribe as always. Starting out at 125 pounds, Alexandre Pantoja. Now, Alexandre Pantoja is a great fighter. He may prove at the end to be right there with I still put number one DJ all time at 125 pounds. You could easily put Henry Cejudo there, definitely number two. And then I think you get into Pantoja. Pantoja is an interesting contrast in that he doesn't just blow guys away. He has, won some decisions. He's won some very tough fights. But he has proven to be the man in 125 pounds. How long will it last? I don't know. Kopp is an excellent fighter. Of course, he's going to get a title shot comparatively soon. There's some guys kind of on the come up who might be a problem for him. He's not Anderson Silva GSP where he's a level above the competition and it's kind of one after another. He has had some challenging fights, although he is an excellent fighter. 125 is not a pay-per-view selling division. It never has been. Even when DJ was killing everybody, right? Henry Cejudo made it interesting. It's never been a marketable division, period. Now, it's the same problem they have in boxing, which is the star fighters have historically been 147 and up, welterweight. Nowadays, you're getting fighters like Gervonta Davis, you're getting some good lightweight fighters, Naoya Inoue, some lighter fighters are getting their respect. I think it's a great thing. But historically, you had to go up to welterweight to make money. That's what Floyd Mayweather did. That's what Roberto Duran did. A lot of greats moved up in weight class in order to get to that money weight class, Manny Pacquiao. So similar thing here, where in the UFC, it's just hard to get a standalone pay-per-view seller in the lighter weight classes. And 125, the lightest of the light. So in Alexandre Pantoja, you have a good champion. He's kind of marketable. People like him. But he's not going to stand alone, sell pay-per-views for you no matter how good he is, and he is very, very good. 135, Merab Dvalishvili. This is the first guy who is cut from a cloth we're going to see a lot of. Tough wrestler, very hard-nosed, Eastern European, wins a lot of decisions, not the greatest finisher in the world. Physical for the weight class. He's big at 135. He can be a little wacky. He can say some goofy stuff. He can get in an opponent's face and make the trash talk interesting. But once again, not the most marketable guy on earth. And he took over, of course, from Sugar Sean O'Malley, who, whatever you think of him as a fighter, was incredibly marketable, had the look, had the attitude, had all of these things. I didn't give him a snowball's chance in hell of beating Merab Dvalishvili. That's how I saw the fight. So this is one of those things where the UFC has a marketable guy. They have somebody they can really make money with. You can't put him in there against those hard-nosed Eastern European fighters that have the wrestling background, that have incredible top pressure. It's just a skill set that is so hard to beat. And it's one of the issues the UFC and MMA period is having right now, where the style that's kind of taken over is a style that isn't particularly marketable from fighters who personally aren't that marketable. It's not easy to sell a fighter like Merab Dvalishvili. I think he's going to be champion for a while. Nurmagomedov came close, right? He showed it can be done. You can stick and move and outbox him if you can stop the takedown. The problem is, of course, Nurmagomedov couldn't keep it going for more than a couple rounds. He's talked plenty about the injuries there and all that stuff. I'm not going to go into it. I've gone into it before. So this is a division at 135. Sean O'Malley is the number one contender. I don't think he beats him, period. Petr Yan, maybe, but once again, you have the same problem you had before. Bit more of a kickboxer, but still that Eastern European, very, very tough. Umar Nurmagomedov at number 3. Corey Sandhagen at number 4. I love Corey Sandhagen. I really think his time has come and gone. at 135. I don't think he beats Merab for sure. Then after that, Davison Figueiredo at number 5, Song Yadong at number 6. Song Yadong looked good. It's going to be a while before I believe Song Yadong can be a title contender. So I don't see anyone on the horizon right now. Maybe a rematch with Umar Nurmagomedov. Sure, Peter Yan would be tough. This idea that it's going to be another Eastern European fighter with a hard-nosed style that is a champion at 135. So I don't see anyone else, any marketable guy really coming up that's going to be, oh my God, that's going to be your champion. Featherweight. It was Ilya Topuria. Topuria now moving up to 155 pounds. What do you have? You have Alexander Volkanovski, who's number 1, versus Diego Lopez, who's number 3 right now in the UFC rankings for the title. You never want this as an organization. Whoever wins, be it Alexander Volkanovski or Diego Lopez, it doesn't really matter. They're not seen as the number 1 guy in the division. The number 1 guy was the guy who just left. So whoever wins between Diego Lopez and Alexander Volkanovski is going to be seen as second best at 145 pounds. Now, does that... Will fans forget that? If it's Diego Lopez, they will. Because Diego Lopez didn't get his butt kicked by Ilya Topuria the way Alexander Volkanovski did. It's hard to move on to a new champion when the new champion was a guy who got shellacked by the other guy. If you remember, Jose Aldo became interim 145-pound champion after Conor McGregor moved up to 55. But also, Aldo had gotten smashed by Conor when they fought. So it really, the division itself didn't move on until Max Holloway became champion. And then you're like, okay, that guy had lost previously, of course, to Conor McGregor, but not recently. He had gotten better. The division starts moving on in a minute. So if Alexander Volkanovski becomes champion, defeating Diego Lopez, it's going to be a while before people forget that he was the guy who got beat up by Ilya Topuria. If it's Diego Lopez, yeah, he'll eventually move on, especially if he proves to be a dominant champion. I don't see him doing that necessarily. I think he's good. I don't think he has the kind of run where we're gonna forget about Ilya Topuria. And also before that, you have the run of Alexander Volkanovski, who's an all-time great at 45. I put him number 2 all-time behind Jose Aldo. So you have these long extended runs of really great champions, and now the guy who was supposed to be the next generation has moved up. You kind of have the also ran at 145, be it Diego Lopez or Volkanovski. And also, I don't think Volkanovski has it in him for another long run. You're asking a lot of your body at his age. Now, this is a division that is aging out a little bit. Movsar Evloev on the outside, but Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez, Brian Ortega, Arnold Allen, Josh Emmett, we've been talking about these names for a long time. I think it's starting to age out, but Ilya moving up to 155 pounds leaves us with kind of a vacuum at 145. So that's not a real marketable champion, no matter who wins. 155, this is a real bright spot. Islam Makhachev at 155 pounds. He is a pay-per-view seller. He is very, very interesting. Stylistically, he's blowing guys out of the water. He's a great finisher. I like him a lot as champion. I think he might be one of the best all time when it's all said and done. The problem when you look at the rankings around him, it's the same names we've been talking about for years. Number 1 is Arman Tsarukyan, then you have Charles Oliveira, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Max Holloway, Dan Hooker, Michael Chandler. The top 7, even 8, Mateusz Gamrot's been on the block. Number 9 is Beneil Dariush. Number 10 is Renato Moicano, who just blew away. So you have a great champion, I think, at the top of 155. That next generation really hasn't come up yet. And the problem we had in boxing during the Manny Pacquiao-Floyd Mayweather years when they were having their fight. Somebody asked me, how do you think boxing's doing with that big fight? And I said, the problem is we've been talking about the same names for a decade. And that's never good when I go, wow, who's at the top? And it's saying, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, that we've been talking about these guys forever. I'm not thinking about the next guy coming up. 155 is very much like that. And when you look at Paddy Pimblett, Benoit Saint-Denis, these guys that I don't think they're the man, either one of them, at 155 pounds. I don't see that come up. I don't see anybody in the top 15 that I'm going, man, this guy's going to be a future champion. You just wait until this guy starts going. I don't see that. They're good. They're not great. I think what's going to happen is fighters like Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje are going to start retiring, going to start getting out of the game. And there aren't going to be those names to fill it up. It's going to be the ones who haven't retired kind of sliding in that spot. So it's hard to keep Islam Makhachev supplied with interesting title defenses. It's just going to be hard. So you have a great champ at 55. The rest of the division is aging out a bit. So it's going to be hard to keep that energy, enthusiasm in the lightweight division. 170, Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad was my example I was doing a thing on ESPN about why a certain generation, GSP, Anderson Silva, John Jones, that generation, I know John Jones is still champion, we'll get to him in a bit, why they had all the great title runs. Jose Aldo, right? All those guys had great title runs at the same time. Why? I said they won the title young. Nowadays, when someone wins a title, they got to have 7 or 8 fights in the UFC, maybe 3 or 4 on the way up. They don't win it till they're in their early 30s a lot of times, and the clock is ticking. You don't have the years that you had when I was coming up in MMA. A lot of times people got a title shot in their second or third fight in the UFC. You could win it, and you were freaking 24, 25. So you could go on a 6-year run because your prime was still to come. And the example I used in that discussion was, let's say Belal Muhammad wins, because he was a contender. He hadn't yet won the title. And I said he's 34 years old, or however old he was at the time when I was making this video. And I said, he wins, how long can he really be at the top? Winning in his mid-30s. And he wins, and it's still the same problem. I think Belal Muhammad's an excellent fighter, not particularly marketable style, tends to win by decision, tends to out-wrestle guys. Even the win over Sean Brady, where he got a TKO, never knocked him down. Remember, it got called off, he was still standing up. So he isn't like the greatest knockout puncher in the world. He is getting on in age. It's just difficult for someone like Belal Muhammad to have a kind of run where he's going to be a standout 170-pounder for a long time. Also, Shavkat Rakhmonov waiting in the wings. That's a guy, I think, once again, the guy waiting in the wings is a tough Eastern European, he's Kazakhstani, fighter, right? You have that tough Eastern European fighter who isn't particularly marketable but can smash everybody. That's the guy waiting in the wings. I think that's the biggest threat to Belal Muhammad. 170 is moving nicely. You have Jack Della Magdalena at number 4, Sean Brady, very much a factor at number 5, a resurgent Joaquin Buckley at 1. So you have the next level coming up, right? So you have the guys, Gilbert Burns moving down, Kamaru Usman getting old, he's got his physical problems. So you do have that next generation coming up. So 170, I still have a lot of faith in 170, but right now, the champ they have, Belal Muhammad, not a standalone pay-per-view seller. So, he doesn't, to me, have the years to really be one of those all-time great champions, although I really like Belal and think he's an excellent fighter. 185, Dricus du Plessis. This is what I want to know about really in the comment section. As I was thinking about this topic, he was one of those that could kind of go either way, Dricus du Plessis. And what I mean by that is he's South African. I know one South African in my life. Is he super marketable? He does speak English. Not an inarticulate guy. Does have a passport. Like, once again, not a lot of people are South African. His style is fun. He's aggressive. It's pretty basic. It's hands up, chin down, goes for it. I mean, that can be fun. I don't know how much fans really connect with Dricus du Plessis. I like him, but I really want to know from you guys. This is the one guy where I couldn't really get a handle on. I'm like, well, he's kind of marketable. I don't know, but it's not a guy that people really love. He can be fun to watch. Izzy was definitely a crossover superstar, right? Sean Strickland was divisive. He was you either loved him or hated him, but either way, you wanted to see him fight. And then you have Dricus du Plessis, who, once again, an entertaining style, does like the trash talk, can connect with the audience a bit, but he's from a country that isn't going to get a ton of fan support outside his native country, South Africa. So he's kind of a weird mix. Now, 185 itself, Khamzat Chimaev, of course, the boogeyman. I have my doubts about whether or not Khamzat can win a long, difficult, grueling fight, but once again, ethnically Chechnyan. So you're looking at, once again, an Eastern European wrestling-centric guy. Look, if Belal Muhammad loses to Shavkat Rakhmonov, let's, for argument's sake, say Dricus du Plessis loses to Khamzat Chimaev his next time out, you have an Eastern European champion at 35, currently at 45. I know that Tapuri is moving up. 155, Islam Makhachev. That would be 170, 185, and light heavyweight. You would have Eastern European champions in all of those divisions. Is that good for the UFC? I would say no. Generally, you do want a mix because you want to be able to take your show on the road and have people connect with the champion. That might not be easy to do with that level of guy. So you got Dricus du Plessis, who does connect pretty well with fans, depending on, you do have Khamzat Chimaev waiting in the wings at 185. Light heavyweight, Magomed Ankalaev, the new champ at 205. Look, one of the stars of the UFC in the last couple of years, you can't get around it, was Alex Pereira, right? He had an excellent story, came up from nothing, overcame addiction with kickboxing, got his life back together, came out of nowhere, as far as most fans go, unless you watch Glory Kickboxing, ended up, obviously, the incredible fights with Izzy, a great story at 205, knocked everybody out that he fought. He had lightning in a bottle. If you saw my picks, I picked Ankalaev to win. I was like, yeah, it's going to be boring, though. I once again, not a lot of fans connect with Magomed Ankalaev. I think he deserves to be where he is. He is incredibly well-rounded, but he has the wrong passport, and his style can be a little tactical. Not that he isn't dominant. It's just his style doesn't have the wow factor of a guy like Pereira who throws his goofy shovel punch and knocks people dead. He doesn't have that kind of style. Is he capable of being a champion a long time? Yes, provided Pereira doesn't win a rematch. So you have Pereira at number 1, Yuri Prochazka. I don't have a ton of faith in Yuri Prochazka because he can be just inconsistent. He's a little wild. Jan Blachowicz, Magomed dominated him. Jamal Hill, don't have a lot of faith in him. Alexander Rakic, pretty good. I don't see him beating Ankalaev. So when I look at the top 10, similar problem do we have to other divisions. It's kind of aging out. And when I'm talking about these names, you're going, yeah, I've seen that guy. Yeah, that guy was briefly champion. Yeah. The excitement of, wow, this next up-and-comer, I don't see that. So unless Pereira can find his offensive aggression, which he couldn't find in the first fight, against Ankalaev and beat him in a rematch, don't see anybody in the top 10 that I consider a huge threat. So it's Magomed Ankalaev with that awkward southpaw, kind of herky-jerky style, can be grappling-centric, as your champion again. So another Eastern European grappler. Heavyweight division, you have John Jones. John Jones, it's either Tom Aspinall or bust. I believe right now as I'm sitting here, and of course I will get into the breakdown should the fight happen, that Tom Aspinall is the best heavyweight in MMA. I really believe that. John Jones, though, one hell of a fighter, right? He's my number 1 all time, right? He's my number 1 pound for pound. He hasn't beaten, to me, a great heavyweight in his heavyweight run, right? Stipe Miocic was functionally retired. And then, obviously, Cyril Gane, who's the number 2 contender, he didn't have the well-roundedness to beat John Jones. So John Jones, at top of the heavyweight division, he is a star. He can command a lot of money. He's effing retiring. There's one more, Tom Aspinall. Dana White says he'll be set up this summer. I would love that. Love to see it. Win or lose, he's out. I think right now, as I'm sitting here, it'd be a loss, but he's out. He's gone. So who will be your champion after that? Probably Tom Aspinall. Even if Aspinall loses to John Jones retires, they would have a title fight with Tom Aspinall and somebody else. Tom Aspinall probably wins that. Tom Aspinall, a comparatively marketable champion. You know, big, good-looking guy. He has an aggressive style. I think heavyweight's going to be all right. And heavyweight does tend to generally move pretty well. In this case, you do have older names at the top. Tom Aspinall, not old, but names you've heard before. Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane, Alexander Volkov, Sergey Pavlovich, Curtis Blades. That's your top 5. Jailton Almeida kind of coming up. Sergey Spivak is going down. Taburo's going down. This idea that we need a little new blood at heavyweight, but we tend to get that because it takes 1 or 2 big knockouts and you're a big deal at heavyweight. So I don't worry that much about heavyweight, but I do think Tom Aspinall probably our champion before the end of the year, but I think he's a pretty marketable guy. Women's strawweight, Zhang Weili. I think she's effing amazing. I think she's the best to ever do it. At 115, there's going to be a showdown with Valentina Shevchenko. I would love to see that. Valentina Shevchenko, a very marketable champion. There are names at both weight classes. 125 has never been that deep. 115 typically has been. Virna Jandiroba coming up. I think she would be the next contender because she's already beaten Yan Xiaonan and Tatiana Suarez, who are your 1 and 2. There should be a little movement there, but I think they have a great champion in Zhang Weili. They've always had a great champ in Valentina Shevchenko. Juliana Pena, of course. The Kayla Harrison fight is everything. I think Kayla Harrison is kind of the boogie woman at 135 pounds. I don't think Pena is a long-running champion. Kayla Harrison might be. We will see. But that's where the champions right now are for the UFC. Not a ton of bankable, marketable names. A lot of the divisions at the top are getting a little bit long in the tooth. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you next time.